Captain Jane Mitchell stood aboard the galactic trade vessel Venture, gazing out into the vastness of space. The shimmering nebulae beyond her viewport swirled in vibrant colors, a perfect reflection of the excitement and nerves bubbling within her. Humanity had come a long way, establishing connections with various alien civilizations, but trust remained scarce. "Captain, we're approaching Elysium," her second-in-command, Mark Delgado, called out from the navigation console. His manner was relaxed, but Jane knew he shared her anticipation. "Let's prepare for docking. Make sure the cargo is secure," she replied, her steely tone belying her bubbling excitement. They had spent months charting a path to this advanced world. Elysium was renowned for its intricate trade networks, and Jane was determined to secure a significant deal. As they moved closer, the sprawling cityscapes of Elysium appeared through the viewport, marvelous structures caught in the shimmering light of their star. Mark leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "I've heard rumors. The Zephyrians are tricky traders. They're known for their intelligence but can be a bit elusive." "What do you mean?" Jane asked, curiosity piqued. "Isn't that common in trade?" "Yeah, but the Zephyrians don't just want a trade. They want to know what you bring to the table before they offer anything in return. They might not even honor a deal unless trust is established first." "Trust?" she mused, internalizing his words. "That's not something we can afford to dangle in front of them. We need to make a good impression." Before Mark could respond, Jane's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime indicating their docking procedure was underway. The ship rocked slightly as they aligned with the docking port, and anticipation filled the air. "Ready?" she asked Mark, adjusting her uniform. "Always, Captain." He grinned, though the slight twitch in his expression revealed his own nervousness. As the docking clamps engaged, Jane inhaled deeply, steeling herself for what lay ahead. Stepping into the bustling trade hub, she felt the pulse of the alien world around her. Unfamiliar yet inviting. Holographic displays advertised a multitude of goods, while merchants from various species hustled about. Then, her gaze landed on a figure that seemed to command attention. A Zephyrian woman stood at the end of the concourse, tall and elegant, with glimmering scales that reflected the vibrant colors of the surroundings. Jane felt eyes drawn to her, breath catching in her throat. "Wow," Mark muttered, nudging Jane. "She's stunning." "Focus," Jane said, shaking her head. "We're here for business." The Zephyrian approached, her sapphire-hued eyes penetrating yet warm. "Captain Mitchell, I presume?" She spoke, voice smooth and melodic. "Yes, I am," Jane replied, extending her hand, careful not to show her trepidation. "And you are?" "Lyra," she responded, taking Jane's hand in her own, her grip firm but gentle. A jolt surged through Jane at the contact, but she quickly masked her surprise. "I am looking forward to our discussions." Mark sidled up beside her, flashing a confident smile. "We're eager to see what we can offer each other." Lyra's gaze shifted to Mark, and Jane felt a flicker of possessiveness. "Your ships are known for their innovative technologies. What do you wish to trade?" "Mainly advanced technology, tools, and possibly some rare resources," Jane stated, hoping to sound assured. "We're also welcoming new alliances." "Interesting," Lyra said, tilting her head slightly as if weighing Jane's words. "But what about your intentions?" "Trade is a delicate dance, and intentions must be clear." "Trade is built on trust and mutual respect," Mark interjected, his tone earnest. "We understand that, and we want to be allies, not just traders." Lyra's eyes sparkled with intrigue. "Then let us find common ground. What do you know of our craftsmanship?" Jane seized the moment. "I've heard Zephyrian artistry is unparalleled. We could combine our technologies with your designs. Perhaps create something together." "Something together?" Lyra mused, a playful grin emerging. "That is a bold claim for a human." "We're nothing if not bold," Mark echoed, glancing at Jane, who felt a swell of confidence. "Let me show you," Lyra said, stepping back and gesturing for them to follow her. "But first, I would like to understand your culture better." As they walked through the vibrant marketplace, Jane was struck by the mix of sights and sounds around her. Alien musicians played mesmerizing tunes while artisans crafted stunning wares. Lyra pointed out various goods that inspired awe, textiles that shimmered in the light and technologies that challenged Jane's understanding. Your people have production methods that must be seen, Lyra mused, observing Jane's reactions with keen interest. But I wonder, how do you earn trust? We're straightforward, Jane replied, feeling the weight of the question. What you see is what you get. If we promise something, we follow through. And if your people falter? Lyra asked, her expression serious. Jane paused, considering her words carefully. Then we apologize and try to make it right. Trust isn't built overnight, it takes time. Mark chimed in, we also don't shy away from mistakes. Instead, we learn from them, improve, and keep moving forward. Lyra nodded, clearly pondering their responses. Perhaps I can learn more about the human way. Shall we begin with a collaboration on your ship? The suggestion sparked a renewed sense of excitement. Yes, definitely. Jane replied, passion in her voice. And what shall we create? Lyra asked, her sapphire eyes shining with happiness. Jane looked at Mark and back at Lyra, whose enthusiasm was contagious. Let's find a way to blend our technologies. We have some ideas for renewable energy sources that could integrate seamlessly with your structures. Compatibility could innovate both our worlds. Brilliant indeed, Lyra said, her appreciation evident. Now let's see if we can trust your words by making something together. That is the true test, is it not? Absolutely, Mark agreed. Once we get started, you'll see we're serious. As they continued discussing plans, Jane felt the initial apprehension dissipate, replaced by a mix of hope and excitement for what lay ahead. They were on the cusp of something new, a partnership not merely based on trade but on mutual respect and understanding. Elysium beckoned, and Jane found herself ready to dive in. Chapter 2, Tentative Offers. The next morning, Jane found herself pacing the deck of the Venture, readying herself for the work ahead. They had agreed to meet Lyra at a central hub, a workshop that served both as a marketplace and a collaborative space for artisans and inventors. As she prepared, Mark entered, still adjusting his collar. Ready for round 2? He asked, a hint of excitement in his voice. More like round 1, Jane replied, rolling her shoulders. Yesterday was all talk. Today we make something. Right? But any idea what we're building? Mark asked, looking at her thoughtfully. Lyra suggested combining our technologies with their energy systems, Jane mused, fingers tapping the edge of a holographic display. If we can create an eco-friendly power source, it might be very appealing to them. Let's hope they have the components we need, Mark replied with a grin. Otherwise, we'll need a backup plan. I believe in improvisation, Jane said, her determination clear. As they arrived at the workshop, vibrant lights highlighted an array of alien technology and art. The space was filled with buzzing energy as various teams clamored over designs, working together amid the high-tech tools of the trade. Captain. Mark. Lyra called out, waving as she approached. I'm glad to see you both. Are you ready to start? Absolutely, Jane said, eager to get started. We've been discussing our goals for the project. We want to create something that harnesses energy efficiently and sustainably. Excellent. Lyra said, enthusiasm radiating from her. I've gathered some materials that might help. She gestured to a table nearby, piled with various components, some familiar, others completely alien in design. Mark leaned closer, examining the components closely. What do you think we can do with this? We can start with a prototype, Lyra suggested. You humans are known for your rapid development processes, correct? Jane nodded. We can build a small energy generator. If it works, we'll have a foundation to expand upon. As they set to work, Jane felt the atmosphere shift, full of potential. They discussed ideas, sharing technical know-how and sparking vibrant dialogue. So, how exactly does your energy conversion work? Lyra asked as they began assembling their concepts. It's all about maximizing efficiency, Mark explained, his hands deftly organizing tools. We apply the principles of thermodynamics, using a core that draws energy from various sources, solar, kinetic, thermal. Lyra nodded, her eyes sparkling with interest. That sounds fascinating. In Zephyrian design, we focus heavily on bioluminescence to harvest energy from our environment. Perhaps we can adapt one of our light-absorbing crystals to enhance your design. Great idea. Jane replied, feeling a surge of excitement. If we can create something that taps into both tech and bioluminescence, we'll be setting a precedent for collaborative tech. As they gathered materials and discussed designs, Jane found herself increasingly absorbed in the process. Each passing minute solidified their connection, each moment a mix of professional camaraderie and budding companionship. We can sketch a concept on the digital board, Lyra suggested, motioning to a large touchscreen display. Mark, would you do the honors? Sure thing, Mark said, approaching the screen. With deft strokes, he began outlining their design. Jane and Lyra looked on, each chipping in with ideas and adjustments. Maybe we should scale down the size just a bit, Jane pointed out. If we make it portable, it could be easily adopted. The smaller, the better. I agree, Lyra added. We Zephyrians are always seeking practicality in our designs. It should be efficient yet elegant. Efficiency and beauty. Sounds like a solid mantra, Mark remarked, chuckling. After an hour, the concept started taking shape, a masterpiece of collaboration blending human ingenuity and Zephyrian artistry. The excitement in the room was palpable. Look at that, Lyra said, leaning closer. I think we're onto something. Jane felt a swell of pride. All thanks to teamwork, she smiled. Now, let's start building. Time to put our ideas to the test, Mark said. As they got to work assembling parts, laughter and shared stories filled the workshop. They each showcased their unique strengths. Lyra adeptly crafted parts with an artistic flair, while Mark focused on the more technical aspects. Did you always want to be a trader? Lyra asked Jane while they applied a bioluminescent coating to a prototype piece. Not really, Jane replied, wiping her brow. I was going to be an engineer, but I found that exploring the universe and building deals was far more exciting than being tied down to blueprints. It's about connecting with others and sharing knowledge. I can see that, Lyra said, nodding thoughtfully. In Zephyrian culture, we value exploration. Every new star we navigate opens a doorway for understanding. What's the most enlightening moment you've experienced? Jane paused, recalling the countless adventures she had undertaken. I think it was when we first made contact with another civilization. Every unknown felt like a puzzle, and understanding their way of life opened my eyes. It made me love what I do even more. Lyra's smile broadened. You have a spirit of adventure. I admire that. And what about you? Jane asked, curious. What drew you to trade and collaboration? It is thrilling, isn't it? Lyra replied, a radiant enthusiasm in her tone. To discover new ideas, to forge bonds across the stars. Fascinates me. I want to show our people that we can thrive through understanding one another, not competing. Mark chimed in, wiping his hands on a cloth. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We're transforming that ideal into reality. With the prototype nearing completion, the atmosphere buzzed with anticipation. Finally, they attached the last piece, creating a device that hummed softly with potential energy. Are we ready for this? Mark asked, a hint of cautious excitement in his voice. Let's give it a try, Jane declared, a smile spreading across her lips. They powered up the device, the bioluminescent energy flowing through it, reflecting a beautiful dance of colors. Lyra gasped, her eyes sparkling. It works. Your design is more brilliant than I imagined. Thanks to our teamwork, Jane said, feeling exhilarated. This is just the beginning, Mark added, surveying the glowing device. We could revolutionize our systems. Lyra turned to Jane. You have trusted us with this endeavor. The bond we created is stronger than any trade agreement. Jane felt warmth blooming in her chest, a connection forging deeper than business. I believe in this. All of us. They gathered around their creation, feeling the weight of what they had accomplished together. In that instant, the partnership was no longer just about trade. It was about the potential for something profound, something that could change lives, build bridges, and connect worlds. The workshop buzzed around them, but in that moment, it felt like they were the only three beings in existence, connected by shared dreams and the thrill of what had only just begun. Chapter 3: Seeds of Trust. The sun hovered low over the horizon, painting the skies of Elysium with hues of crimson and gold. Jane stood at the deck of the Venture, her eyes scanning the horizon beyond the docking bay. The exciting rush of potential still lingered from their successful prototype the day before. Morning, Captain, Mark greeted as he joined her, taking a sip from his coffee. Ready to take this partnership to the next level? She grinned, buoyed by his enthusiasm. More than ready. Lyra is scheduled to meet us again today. I think our prototype has made an impression. Let's hope it's a good one, Mark said, leaning against the rail. You know how these meetings can go. One moment, everything is bright, and the next, trust falls apart. Jane finished, nodding. That's why we need to keep the momentum going. If we can build confidence in our collaboration, we'll set the stage for something meaningful. As they prepared the vessel for Lyra's arrival, Jane felt a mix of excitement and nervous energy. The venture was equipped with state-of-the-art communication systems, but the real magic lay in bridging the gap between their two cultures. Moments later, the docking bay doors slid open and Lyra stepped through, her scales reflecting the warm glow of the bay. A soft smile graced her face as she approached. "Jane, Mark, it's wonderful to see you both again." "Welcome back, Lyra," Jane said, extending her hand. They engaged in light contact, the gesture feeling warmer with each encounter. Mark added, "How was your night? I hope you rested well." Lyra's expression brightened. "It was splendid. I shared your prototype with some colleagues and the response was overwhelmingly positive. They were quite impressed with your ideas." "Glad to hear that," Jane replied, a rush of relief flooding her. "We're here to work, but knowing people appreciate what we've created is encouraging." "I'd like to discuss our next steps," Lyra said, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "If you don't mind." "Not at all," Jane answered, motioning for them to move to the workbench. They gathered around the table covered in tools and components, ready to refine their prototype. "Shall we start by figuring out how to enhance our energy generator?" Mark suggested, looking between the two women. "Absolutely," Lyra agreed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "But first, we should define our outcomes. What do we hope to achieve long-term?" "Specifically," Jane considered for a moment before responding. "We want a device that provides sustainable energy but is also user-friendly and adaptable. Elysium is a hub of trade. If this works, we might see widespread adoption across various planets." "Good goals," Lyra validated. "But we should also consider how this will benefit both our cultures. A generator like this can't just work, it has to resonate with our values." "Speaking of values," Mark interjected, "how do you feel about the aesthetics of the device? We've been so focused on functionality." Lyra nodded, thoughtful. "Aesthetics are vital in Zephyrian culture. Our designs often reflect harmony and fluidity. Would you two be willing to incorporate more organic shapes into the design?" "Definitely," Jane replied. "We should make it visually appealing. After all, people are drawn to what they find beautiful." "Let's sketch some ideas," Mark suggested as he moved toward the touchscreen display. "Lyra, what shapes resonate with you?" As Lyra described various shapes inspired by nature, Jane couldn't help but notice how animated she became. A subtle energy radiated from her when discussing design elements, and it made Jane even more invested in the collaborative effort. "I like the idea of flowing lines, perhaps mimicking a river," Lyra said, using an elegant finger to trace lines in the air. "Water is life, it brings balance." Mark began to sketch out the flowing designs while Jane watched in fascination. Lyra pointed out details and Jane felt the excitement build. "This looks great," Jane exclaimed, realizing how the meld of their ideas was taking form. "I can see how it can represent both our cultures." "And what about functionality?" Lyra asked, tilting her head. "Let's ensure this isn't just a pretty face." Mark chimed in again, "What if we incorporate a dual-mode switch? One mode for maximum efficiency when stationary and another for portability." "I like that idea," Lyra said, her eyes lighting up. "It would be particularly helpful in situations where mobility is key. We would add features based on the tasks at hand." Jane observed the two as they continued discussing intricacies. The sense of partnership was growing. Every input was met with consideration and disagreements only sparked further creativity. After an hour, they'd come up with a refined design and Jane felt a rush of pride. "So, we've just created a prototype that not only works but is also aesthetically sound," she said, feeling a surge of energy. "Exactly," Mark agreed, studying the patterns they'd created. "Now we can start assembling the new version. We'll need to gather materials again." "Leave that to me," Lyra suggested. "I know where to source what we need. Also, I'd like to invite you both to one of our Zephyrian markets. It will help you understand our ideals better." "Count me in," Mark said eagerly. "I'm all about market research." Jane smiled, feeling the warmth of camaraderie grow. "I'd love to experience that. Learning about your culture firsthand will give us deeper insights into our partnership." They finalized their scheduled visit for later in the week and quickly got back to work. The energy in the room surged, mixing creativity and collaboration. Lyra quickly moved around the works. "UST," Jane replied, moving to join her. "I want anyone to be able to understand it without complicated instructions. The simpler, the better." "Another point well made," Lyra said, nodding vigorously. "I believe technology should be accessible. We owe it to our civilizations to ensure it's inclusive." Mark stood back, observing the two women working together. "You know, this partnership has turned out better than I ever dreamed. I wasn't sure how it would go at first." "I felt the same," Jane admitted, glancing at Lyra. "But each day strengthens my belief in the collaboration." "I feel it too," Lyra chimed in, wiping her brow. "When ideas flow freely, synergy follows." We're not just trading, we're building something unique that can last. Hours flew by as they assembled the updated prototype, lost in the blend of their cultures, ideas, and aspirations. With every component tightened and adjusted, Jane could sense the foundation of trust solidifying among them. As the sun sank below the skyline, illuminating the workshop with a warm glow, Jane felt more than excitement. She felt a shared mission, a genuine bond being forged through creativity, understanding, and the promise of what they could accomplish together. Chapter 4, Bridging Worlds. The market was alive with sounds and colors unlike anything Jane had ever experienced. Vibrant stalls lined the busy streets, showcasing a range of goods from radiant textiles to intricate gadgets. Lyra walked beside her, radiating enthusiasm, while Mark flanked the other side, capturing the sights on his holopad. "Look at that!" Lyra exclaimed, pointing at a stall filled with glowing crystals. "They can store energy and emit light for hours. They are a vital part of our architecture." Jane leaned forward, her eyes wide. "That's incredible! Imagine using those crystals alongside our prototype." Mark, busy snapping images, interjected, "So, are you saying you've built entire buildings around these concepts? How practical is that?" Lyra laughed lightly, her scales shimmering in the sunlight. "Very practical. It's all about combining beauty with functionality. Let me show you more." They entered a shop, the air filled with an enticing aroma. The walls had murals depicting their culture's history while the shelves overflowed with creative wares. A vendor welcomed them, showcasing intricate jewelry and gadgets. "What do you think?" Lyra asked, her eyes sparkling. "Every item here tells a story." Jane examined a delicate crystal pendant that seemed to pulse with an inner light. "It's beautiful. How do artisans decide what stories to tell?" "The stories often come from our relationship with nature and the stars," Lyra explained. "Every design represents a belief or a culture that binds us together." Mark was fascinated. "This is something we don't always recognize back home. We sometimes focus so much on function we forget the story behind our technology." A glimmer of understanding passed over Jane's face. "That's a powerful insight, Mark. Maybe we should consider how the story of our energy generator can resonate with people." Lyra nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. If we create meaning around our technology, it will become more relatable." "Let's brainstorm some ideas while we explore," Mark suggested, shooting Jane a look filled with excitement. "We could think about different narrative elements we can incorporate into our design." As they wandered through the market, discussing various narratives that could connect their technologies to cultural themes, Jane felt a deeper bond forming with both Lyra and Mark. Each moment was filled with shared joy and inspiration. "What about a story rooted in exploration?" Jane suggested, her hands moving animatedly as she spoke. "Emphasizing our journey across different worlds, focusing on unity and collaboration." "That has a nice ring to it," Mark replied, grabbing a handful of mini glowing orbs from a vendor. "Maybe we could show how different cultures can fuel innovations together." Lyra embraced the idea, her eyes glowing with enthusiasm. "And we can represent the generator as a bridge, a connection point bringing forth knowledge from all possible worlds." "Perfect!" Jane exclaimed, the excitement bubbling within her. "Let's solidify the concept. We need to get back to the ship and start integrating this narrative into our prototype." As they made their way out of the market, Lyra handed Jane a small crystal. "Take this, it's a symbol of our partnership. It represents the light we can create together." Jane held it delicately, touched by the gesture. "Thank you, Lyra. I'll cherish it." "You should keep it close. It will remind you of our bond," Lyra said, her sincere gaze meeting Jane's. Back aboard the Venture, they gathered in the workshop, filled with renewed energy from the market visit. Jane set the crystal near their prototype as they began drafting their new plan. "All right, let's incorporate these ideas into our design," Mark said, pulling up the digital interface. "We need to highlight the narrative visually to complement its functionality." With focused fervor, they initiated the redesign process. Jane directed her attention, instructing the others on integrating storytelling elements while ensuring the prototype remained practical. "What if we etch patterns resembling paths across a map on the device's surface?" Lyra proposed, sketching on the touchscreen. "It will symbolize our collective journey." "That's brilliant," Mark applauded. "It'll add depth. People will be able to visually connect the device with exploration." "Let's make sure the designs reflect both cultures. We can incorporate Zephyrian motifs alongside human symbols," Jane suggested, excitedly tapping away at the interface. As the hours rolled by, the design began to take form. The shared effort became more than a project. It felt like stitching their lives together, each contribution a thread that pulled them closer. "Can you feel it?" Mark said, stepping back to observe their work. The energy from all of us working together. It's palpable. I do, Jane replied, standing next to him. It's amazing how much deeper our connection grows through this process. As the redesign neared completion, Lyra caught Jane's gaze, her expression earnest. I appreciate your openness to our ideas, Jane. It's refreshing. We're partners, Lyra. This wouldn't work without your insights. I value what we're building together, Jane replied, meaning every word. With a shared understanding, they refocused on their task, fine-tuning the intricate details of their creation. As they completed the design phase, anticipation buzzed around them. Mark wiped his brow and remarked, "All right, folks, it's time to build the final prototype. Are we ready?" "Absolutely," Jane said, her determination solidifying. Lyra nodded, a smile beaming across her face. "Then let's do this." They set to work, faces filled with concentration. Each part assembled became more than a component. It was a testimony to their collaboration, a representation of combined cultures, stories, and aspirations. As they connected wires and fastened components, Jane felt surges of excitement. Realizing they could meld their individual strengths, they were building something extraordinary. "Everything is coming together beautifully," Lyra said, stepping back to observe their work. "You both have such skill and vision." "Thanks, but I couldn't have done it without both of you," Jane replied. "This is just as much your achievement as it is ours." With the final piece secured, Mark stepped back, surveying the completed prototype. "And there it is, the manifestation of our cooperation and friendship. Let's power it up," Lyra urged, her eyes shining with anticipation. As they initiated the power sequence, the energy generator hummed to life. Bioluminescent lights began to glow, illuminating the entire workshop in ethereal hues. "It works!" Jane shouted, her heart racing with excitement. "We did it!" Lyra stepped closer, her eyes glistening. "This is only the beginning. Together, we can create more than a product. We can change how we relate to each other." Mark grinned broadly. "And we'll do it side by side, working together." With their creation glowing brightly before them, Jane felt a bond form that transcended business. They had woven something remarkable, and within it lay the seeds of a friendship that had the power to flourish across the stars. Chapter 5. The Trade of a Lifetime. The morning sun bathed the venture in warm hues, casting a golden light throughout the workshop where they had spent countless hours crafting their prototype. Jane adjusted the final touches on the energy generator, her pulse quickening as she glanced at Mark and Lyra, who were deep in discussion about their next steps. "Are we ready for the presentation?" Jane asked, her excitement tinged with nervousness. Mark stretched his arms overhead, a wide grin on his face. "Absolutely. We've got a solid product. I'm ready to show it off to their council. And we've practiced our narrative," Lyra added, adjusting her scales in the mirror-like surface of the prototype. "We can demonstrate our collective story perfectly." Jane took a deep breath. "Right? We need to explain how our creation harmonizes with both cultures and serves the universe." "Let's go over our points one more time," Mark suggested. "I'll introduce the prototype and outline the technical aspects. Lyra, you can elaborate on the cultural significance, and Jane, you'll tie it all together." "Sounds like a plan," Jane agreed, her confidence building as they reviewed their parts again. With the prototype powered on and glowing softly, they made their way to the council chamber, a large, ornate space filled with representatives from the Zephyrian community. The room buzzed with anticipation as they entered, Lyra leading the way with grace. "Welcome, Captain Mitchell." Mark and Lyra, the head council member, and elder Zephyrian named Varric, greeted them with a warm smile. "We've been anticipating your presentation." "Thank you for having us," Jane replied, stepping forward confidently. "We're excited to share our collaboration with you." Mark and Lyra took their places beside her, and together they introduced the energy generator. Mark explained the technology behind it, providing a breakdown of its functions. "This device can source energy in a variety of ways while remaining compact and portable," he said, gesturing toward the glowing prototype. "Its dual-mode switch allows users to maximize energy efficiency depending on their needs." "Impressive," Varric said, nodding thoughtfully. "Your attention to practical use is noted." Lyra stepped forward, a twinkle in her eye. "But this prototype is not merely a device, it holds a deeper narrative. We wanted to embody our culture's essence, the idea of collaboration, exploration, and mutual respect. Each design choice reflects these values. Jane felt her heart race as she exchanged glances with Mark and Lyra. We believe that technology should serve as a bridge uniting civilizations and fostering understanding. This generator is that bridge. Varric's eyes narrowed with interest. Can you illustrate how it resonates with the Zephyrian ideals specifically? Lyra nodded, pulling out a visual aid that showcased their design. We've incorporated our bioluminescent patterns to symbolize the flow of energy and life in Zephyrian culture. It embodies our dream of a harmonious existence with technology guiding us through knowledge. Mark pointed to the prototype. And we've worked to ensure that the technology is adaptable, making it suitable for interspecies use. Council members whispered among themselves, their curiosity palpable. Let's see it in action, Varric said after a moment. Can you demonstrate the functionality? Mark and Jane exchanged a quick look and she nodded. We're ready. Stepping forward, Mark activated the generator. The lights shimmered brightly as the bioluminescent patterns pulsed. As you can see, the device draws energy from the ambient environment. The council members leaned closer, captivated by the display. Remarkable, another member remarked. The integration is seamless. Jane stepped in, eager to explain further. Our ultimate goal is not only to provide energy but to inspire communities. By demonstrating this blend of technology, we hope to instill a sense of unity in all who use it. Varric studied their faces, a thoughtful expression overtaking his. This is more than mere technology, it is a message. The notion of shared values resonates. Jane took a breath, her words flowing from her. We've worked as a team, and our collaboration has been built on mutual respect. This device signifies our commitment to working together and improving lives, both human and Zephyrian. After a moment of silence, Varric turned to the council members. What are your thoughts? A member named Rice spoke up first. I believe this could change how we harness energy, especially in remote areas. With proper distribution, it could foster growth in various sectors. Furthermore, another member added, the collaborative spirit behind this project is commendable. An alliance built on shared innovation is something we should pursue. May I inquire about the next steps? Varric asked. Do you propose a formal agreement regarding the trade? Jane felt a rush of excitement. Yes. We'd like to not only share this technology but also create an ongoing partnership allowing both our cultures to continue collaborating on future innovations. We have much to learn from each other, Lyra said, her voice ringing with sincerity. This could be the first step in many ventures ahead. Varric nodded, his gaze serious. Such an agreement requires careful deliberation. However, your presentation has made a significant impact. I believe we should take this to a vote. As the council convened to discuss their proposal, Jane stood close to Mark and Lyra. This is it, she whispered. We might actually pull this off. Just breathe, Mark said, his eyes darting toward the council. Whatever happens, we've already accomplished something monumental. Lyra clasped Jane's hand gently. Regardless of the outcome, we've created a connection that goes beyond business. After what felt like an eternity, Varric returned to the forefront. We have come to a decision. The council is in favor of establishing a formal partnership centered around this prototype. Cheers erupted in the council chamber, joy bubbling around them. Jane felt weight lift off her shoulders, relief washing over her. And as a token of our agreement, Varric continued, we wish to present you with this. He held out a beautifully crafted Zephyrian energy crystal, its hue shimmering. May it symbolize the union of our worlds. Jane took the crystal, her heart full. Thank you. We will cherish this as a reminder of what we've built together. As the meeting waned, the council members approached to express their excitement over the collaboration. Jane and her team shared laughter and conversation, reveling in the newfound alliance. You did it, Mark exclaimed, wrapping Jane and Lyra in an embrace. We really did it. I can't believe how far we've come, Lyra said, her glowing scales reflecting the happiness around them. This is just the beginning. With the energy generator humming softly in the background, Jane knew that their collaboration had formed a new path, a powerful venture that could lead to unforeseen discoveries. Standing before the promise of tomorrow, she felt a sense of belonging as they turned toward the shared journey ahead.